Good afternoon, SuperCoaches. NBL crew here. We got a 371 personally. Moved back into the top 1,000 after losing 1,000 spots last week from 100 out to, well, more than 1,000 spots, 1,100 actually last week. So a little bit of an improvement. Still, made a couple of mistakes in there, or not mistakes, but things we wish could have happened. And Matt Mooney was on my target list, and I was like, oh, we got Armstrong to grab next week. Mooney should be pretty solid. He actually obviously outperformed this week. Performed better than I could even thought that he would in this one. And then Armstrong is not even going to be back this week, so could have grabbed him instead, and that would have been a happy little win, that's for sure. But we did make a few ranks back, and hopefully we can keep trending in the correct direction there. And I also did make a move ahead of time to get ahead of the break evens, which unfortunately went the wrong way. Montrez played like 34 minutes in the end, and with Jarrell Martin coming back, I was like, all right, lock it in, get Montrez to White early. White had the 15 break even. Montrez had the 28 in that one. And I was like, well, if I can get ahead of that little price rise, then things will be good. And Montrez ended up clearly outscoring him, and White had one of his worst performances, of course. But that's how the Supercoach gods treat you when you do trade someone out the week before. So that's all right. We move on, but held on to Davis for a lovely 43. The cash cows are going pretty well, which is nice. Lepepe, another rise from him. Aldrich, a good return game with a 26. Hickey with a 27. Back-to-back massive scores, and a nice break even again this week. And then Henschel bouncing back with a 15. So we did have a couple of injuries across the weekend as well, with Bryce Cotton going down with what looks to be a rib injury, which we'll find out a little bit more across the next few days, how he's tracking. But we've got a few guys in the cheapy range. Angus Glover comes into a bit more of interest there, with Derek Walton Jr. going down with a hamstring strain. Again, we'll find out a little bit more over the next day or two about Walton Jr. and how that's going to best fit guys like Glover, guys like Foxwell, these types of players, guards off the bench for Sam, and see how things play out. But moving into round 6, we have a lot of teams on the doubles. So we have New Zealand, we have Southeast Melbourne, we have Illawarra, we have Melbourne, we have Cairns on the double, as well as Sydney. And that is all. That's plenty though. And Illawarra just have the single, so do Cairns. The 1 week in a row on the double, I should say. Melbourne have got a nice run of 3, same with Southeast Melbourne. Sydney have a couple in a row there, and then New Zealand have a couple more to go as well. So a few of those teams in SEM, in Melbourne, that you want to be targeting. Obviously, Sydney guys you can work in as well. You've got some of the top tier guns, especially with Cooks out there. But our boy Cam Oliver, very much disappointed this week and with the 10, and I think he just has to be sold. It looks like the minutes aren't going to be there off the bench like we saw in the Blitz, like we saw in the first couple of games for him anyway. I was very happy with how things were progressing, but he just isn't. Even when he's on the field now, he's not getting the ball that he was in the first few games or the blitz. So I think he has to be moved on, and those price drops need to be plugged. That's for sure. And just the scoring, like he's done a double this week, but could you trust him to score really well? Like we're coming off a 10 there. We had a 16 in there a few games ago. So a few things to think about with him. Menenga, again, he's on there. He's not the clear focal point, with Matt Mooney really coming in and dominating a bit more. They're using Menenga less, for one example. Got Gillespie in there now as well after that, missing that first game. So he was in there. We were hoping for sort of 35 to 40. Got the 32. Wasn't the worst, but like we've seen with Magne in other games, it's a bit like pulling teeth trying to get points out of him. So wasn't the best bring in. We probably could just gone the early crow on like a Malik Lewis or something like that at a cheaper price. But as I said, we're learning each and every week. And for the boys in the comments, just going nuts in there, I'm not sure what you're getting out of it. This clearly isn't my best sport. I'm still going to document the process. I'm learning each and every time here. Last year I played it very minimally. Like I made trades, but I wasn't focusing on it. And this is the first time that I've gone hard at it and making mistakes. Clearly started well, made some mistakes, did some good, did some bad as well. So I am laughing at your comments in there, and not sure what the reasoning is for it. You guys are having a good time in there. I hope you are anyway. Yeah, yourselves on that one. We had a decent score from Magnay, a good return game from him with a 60. Didn't have to lose much cash, which was nice. But as I said, the guys on the bench, apart from Oliver, doing good things. Menenga went up a little bit. White went up a little bit, but has a higher break even. Sadly for us this week with a 74, but he can definitely hit that. And he's projected for 75 as well with Jackson Cartwright with the 81 projection. A great week from him, but everyone captained him. So yeah, it is what it is on that front. But we are here to have a look forward to round 6, 7 and 8 and project, guys that we want to be targeting in the next bunch of weeks. But let's just say if we were to be moving on from Ola, guys in my team that you want to be targeting is Jack White, which I obviously went the week early on him. You obviously got to make sure you have Jackson Cartwright. If you don't have any of these bench guys, I think you just hold off on buying them, but I think you can keep all of these guys now. Aldridge has a double, same with Hickey. Everyone in my team basically has the double this week, or will once I trade them in Magnay and Davis, the two that don't, and Henschel. But Hickey there with a 24 break even across the 2 games. At his price now, his break even doesn't stay in the negatives, and then Aldridge with the 2-game break even to 19. So pretty solid at that. Both those guys can make money. Aldridge, though, can go back to some lower scores, so don't bank on him to sort of get the minutes or get the points. He's had 2 good games against Cairns, and that's what's shown here. Caleb Pepe, after a lower score, now that he's at 190k, his break-even bumps up as well, up to a break-even of 38, but we know that he can have really nice games. Yeah, it was a weird one on the weekend for him. I think he got a leg cut in that first sort of minute 20, and had to go off, and that kind of changed the rhythm for him and his rotation in that side, so he had to go to the blood bin for a second for a footy reference. But that was the interesting one with him. Obviously, Oliver with a 60 break even could definitely lose cash again this week. And do you want to just trade him out for another guy that could more likely have a nice double this week? So all the questions there in that one. But Oliver, let's say you were to trade him out. Let's just go straight on top from averages to kick things off. The 2 guys you want that are expensive, they're Xavier Cooks and they're Matt Hurt. You're finding a way to get one or both into your side if there's a potential to do that, with Xavier having an average of 38.7 and Hurt's average of 35.2. And just shows how well they're both playing, and they're the 2 highest averages outside of Jackson Cartwright there. And then Davis is giving that a good crack as well in the top guys that you want this week. We're definitely going to look at Doolittle next week. So he hit a 34 average, and if Cotton's out for any extended time, he's going to be their guy. Montrez has done a cracking job for you and made 50k. So he's definitely one to move on for one of those 2 guys, Cooks and Hurt, or both. If you've got Wardenberg clearly holding on for this double, he's having an incredible time out there at the moment. It's very surprised that Frolling's still averaging 29. He's at a very quiet, gets up to that high 20s very, very regularly in just a very easy manner, which is good for him. Casey Prather, I think with him, he's an interesting one this week. If you need that cash just for the certain trades that you want, I think you can sell. With that 20 now, it does slow him down a little bit with his ability to make quick cash. But with Prather, he's an interesting one, whereas if you hold now, once their first double comes in 9, yes, that's still far away. It's 4 rounds away. But then round 11 all the way through, they have a lot of doubles there. So he's, if you get ahead of the game with having him now or keeping him now, he probably gets to that 270, 280, somewhere there, which is where he's averaging, that import price, and can be a really nice hold. You've gained already plenty of cash on him, but you could get even more and then benefit from that with the doubles that are going to come from that when he's able to score at that sort of import level price at that 23, 24 and potentially more. He had that first game or so, which was a little bit quieter for him. So keep an eye out on Prather. Tui, if you held last week, I think you hold on now. Given he's got the double coming off at 25, he is going to have an okay break even without losing cash, and could potentially make a little bit if he keeps going with that high score, low score type of combination that we do see from him. Looking down the line, a big game from Pedro Bradshaw, so keep an eye out on him for later on if things happen to continue as they are. They're all playing massive minutes, so Wardenberg, Bradshaw, and he's improving as a player in this league, so up to a 23 average now after starting really slow. So keep an eye out on Bradshaw. He's at that 270 price now, which he was starting to get cheaper, and then he's if you grabbed him the last couple of weeks, it's worked out well. You got Tanner Gross to come back. A few people are still looking at Rob Lowe coming off a 25, comes into a triple of doubles here, And I understand, but he's also not going to come out and hit, back-to-back 30s or anything like that in the double game. So I don't know if him at 214 is the play. Majok Deng, if you grabbed him a couple of weeks ago or this week coming into it, he had a low one just then, finished him off with a 41 for the week, which was solid enough for sure. But I do think now that you've got through that lot of doubles, I think Deng can be sold for any of those guys that I've been speaking about in that sort of higher bracket there. You had Tyler Robinson with the 12, picks up another 28k, and you should expect Jalen Adams to come back into the start there. Robinson picked up a few extra stats, started pretty well in that game. And you got Gak as well, aka Gak, up to 210k. With the double now, I think you can probably go one more week with him. I'd sell Deng over Gak because of the double this week versus single for sure. And then you've got Henschel. Make sure you get rid of Lat May, and Henschel can be held now, especially if we see Cotton out for a little bit. We had Maxi Darling, which you had absolutely incredible setup there. He won't be found in that, if we're looking at averages, just because he had a really, really slow start and then had a really good little round here. But he's the guy under 100k that you could still pick. He's in that starting side, and if he happens to have another good game or so, which he did in that second one, obviously coming off a lovely game in that second one, he goes into a double this week with a low break even. So Max Darling is definitely someone you could look at. And if you have the SuperCoach Plus there, you can click complete, and Max Darling has a double here with a break even of 3. So he picks up a 30 to 20 odd K price rise, which is lovely. Exactly what you're looking for in that one, that's for sure. But as I said, we go back to those averages there, and if you're looking down lower than that, Malik Lewis is the guy at 150k, coming off a 25 in that game that just played. The last 2 games for him, he's got into that starting side and he's got a lot more minutes. And I don't think it affects him too much, obviously being a forward, but with Derek Walton Jr. potentially out for a few weeks, I'm unsure at this point, but most hamstring strains, especially if you're a little bit older too, can take a little bit of time, even if it's grade 1, to get back to, because you're sprinting and changing directions, a lot going on for your hammy. So I do think Malik Lewis, either way, he's going to be a really solid option. He got stats across the board in that game on the weekend at 150k. He's coming off that 25 with the double here. He doesn't have the craziest low break even coming off the 25, but a 15 for him coming into the double. If he happens to score, a 15 or 20 in each of those games, gets you to a 30 to a 40, then that's 15 to sort of 25k there to be made, and a decent score you can have on your bench over the next 3 weeks, especially if he's a starter, getting those double point games there, which would be really cool. That's for sure. Alrighty, let's move along from the forwards, because that is basically all we've got from that section. We've got Darling, we spoke about him. Clint Stidle had a pretty good little double as well for his price point at 80k. So congrats to him on that one. Okay, moving along to the centers. There's not really a lot. Like if you're looking at trading at Magnay, it's really, the big one is Matt Hurt that you want to be looking at. Harrison's getting very expensive. We wait for him on doubles. If you're holding Wardenberg, just keep hold of him in that one. As I said, some people look at Rob Lowe. It's probably not one to target, in my opinion, just for the upside. Gillespie as well, a bit too expensive, doesn't have the upside, and that's what we need to focus on, is the upside with a lot of these guys. So that's you're really looking at Matt Hurt, and he can cover that center position if you're trading out Magnay. Depends where he is, obviously forward or center in that one, and Aldridge could be held this week as well. So plenty of forwards that you can look at, cheap and expensive. And then looking down to the guards, as I said, Hickey and Henschel easily could be held, but Davis scored really well. I think you can get him to either a cheaper guy in Angus Glover, which we'll go to straight away with him on that one. So he had a really lovely 31 in the game on the weekend. So it started decent, even when D-Walt was on the court, and then he was able to get extended minutes and get 20 plus and end up with a lot of assists and had the ball in his hands plenty. They obviously played well enough to win. And 31 for him, you just look at the break even if you were to trade Glover in, it's -4 for a double. And if he is starting, even if he's not, it should be decent enough minutes for him to score well enough. And they've got him at a 20 across the 2 games. And if D-Walt is out, it should be way higher than that. So he could be a guy that could easily make 30 to 40k. I think if he's starting, there was a lot of raps on him in the preseason that he could easily be a starter. I'm potentially looking at this one, Davis to Glover, freeing up some cash to get to other guys. in other positions there could potentially be a thing. We'll see how that one plays out, or using Henschel to go up to forwards and you're trading out guys like Magnay and Oliver as well. We'll see how things play out, but he's definitely someone at that cheap range that's going to do really good things. And then I think looking to guys like Doolittle for next week, but in the forwards as well. But in this guard spot, you got a few guys to look at. Obviously coming off last week there, Matt Mooney at 297. So he's the more expensive guy that has a really good opportunity to score well again. I'm expecting closer to 25 to 30 to being his normal, where he can get 50 to 60 points on this week again. It does get a little bit harder in round 7 for him, but this one they still gets to play South East Melbourne in their first game, for example. So should still be some points available. Your Tassie guys, if you held on this far, obviously Doyle had a really nice score, 65, but I think you sell him and you sell Crawford this week. Bradshaw you hold on to if you did end up buying him. Webster's obviously someone to look at next week as well if Cotton is to be out at a very cheap price, so keep him in your guard thoughts on that one. Delhi coming off at 34, so back in the starting lineup. He's at 303k. If you didn't want to go Mooney and you preferred for Delhi, who gets that extra double instead of Mooney, that'll be a really cool play. But I think Nathan Sobey's an interesting one this week. If you wanted that mid-tier guy that has a pretty decent guarantee of scoring well, we know that when it was Sobey's team at his previous club, he was able to get to a 348,000 price point. So now he's down to 256. He picked up a 32 on the weekend with D-Walt spending, he played 11 minutes, with Sobey being a bit more of the guy at a very low percentage ownership as well. Sobey I think is an interesting one at 256 without breaking the bank. They could probably go a 55 to 65 this week comfortably enough, just because of the having D-Walt out. If that's the case, we'll find out more during the week as well. If you do own Rob Edwards, I think you could easily hold him this week and make some moves in other positions if you wanted to. But again, cheap guys, it's only really Glover is the guy you want to look at in that guard position there. When you're looking down the line, I think you've got Pepper, Henschel. You could move on from maybe Pepper with that lower score for the break even, but he could obviously get some more time as well if Cotton's out. In this one, make sure to get Vasiljevic out of your side after that bit of a low one. Same with Joe Wieskamp. I think even with the double this week, Wieskamp has to go. And congrats to Jason Cadee. I ended up having a Jason Cadee jersey back in the day. I think I did end up doing a work experience with the Kings back in the day, and Jace was there, and he went to my school. So I was like, yeah, I'll take the Jace one there. I think it was my number as well, number 5. So yeah, good fun. My birthday, that one is. So that was cool. Guys like Ben Air could potentially get some more minutes, but coming off a 4, you don't want to touch him either. And just crazy how low Leaf is going to end up, averaging 7.7 for the season. And then you've got Cotton down there with a 0 this week. Even if he's back next week, I just don't think you can buy him with that low break even. Rib issue could be sticking around as well, but just wild how that one played out. And then we said for Southeast Melbourne, did I say Foxwell? There he is. The 2 Foxwells. So you got 11 in that one, 77k, lost a bit of cash. I think he'll, if D-Walt's out for a bit of time, he's the cheapest cashy this week. That could work out over the next 6 games for them with 3 doubles. So we'll leave it at that, guys. That's the buy, hold, sell. My results. We're looking to push forward and get ourselves back into the, it's going to be big scoring this week. We're projected, I haven't even made any trades, projected for 24, and that's before making some improvements. I think it's going to be a lot easier to field 5 doubles each and every week from this week onwards. So boosts, they should be getting used early. Sometimes it helps you do well. Sometimes it helps you make mistakes. So using boost well in the first 6-7 weeks is the best way to do it, for sure. We've seen that across NRL. We saw that across Big Bash. There's lots of great times to do it, and you want to get your team right. If you can make the correct trades, it works well. If you don't, it can hinder you. So make sure that they are correct. But if you can get close to 5 doubles here on the starting and then have sort of 3 or 4 doubles on the bench, I think you'll make some ranks this week and do some good stuff. So good luck to everyone heading into this week, and I'll see you for my trades hopefully on Thursday there.